Thank you very much, Joel. We'll speak to you a little later. Let's get on with the business of the coffee chat. And joining me this morning, Rofhiwa Madzena. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mgambi. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Nandi.
Good morning. How are you?
You're complaining that the situation outside has made its way.
It is so cold. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm freezing.
It's really cold.
It's very cold. I'm struggling.
Sorry. Joel will make it better. Okay.
Oh, we really hope.
Let's begin here, ladies. The front page of the Cape Times, Rofhiwa, thousands demand justice for slain Tasneer van Wyk. That's the girl who was recently murdered by that animal, allegedly by that animal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what we do in this country. Yesterday I listened to the Justice Minister trying to explain why the rehabilitation process doesn't seem to be working in our prisons. What else can we do?
I don't know what we can do. The idea that people have to get into the streets and protest that and demand that he not get bail for such a horrendous crime is spine-chilling. I mean, when I first heard the story, I knew already when they found him and they couldn't find that young girl that she had already been probably murdered. And of course, she was found stuffed in a drain somewhere. But yes, the story talks about the memorial service that they held for her, and then a beautiful protest by children led by, what do you call them? What do you call those? Yes, the majorettes band, really taking to the streets and calling for there to be decisive action, particularly because this man has been convicted of heinous crimes in the 1980s, of murder, culpable homicide, abduction. I mean, it's a no-brainer that he shouldn't be walking in our streets because obviously the rehabilitation did not happen.
Nandi, as Rofhiwa mentions, this man has been in prison before. He's a convict.
Yeah.
Why should the community even be protesting for him not to get bail? Because
absolutely.
he should immediately.
It's hard to fathom that we're even having this conversation. His convictions, like you say, date back to the 1980s for assault, abduction, murder, child neglect. But he's out in the streets just like that. I don't understand how that happens. And on top of all of that, what the community members were complaining about is that they didn't even know he had been released. They didn't even know that he was out on parole, so they can at least try to enforce some measures to protect their children and their families.
And part of the demand by the people is that if you know you're letting out an animal from prison, try and inform us that he is coming your way. Be on alert.
Yeah.
Why is this not done?
It's bad enough that he was out there, but the fact that they didn't even know he was out there is even more shocking. It's such a sad story.
And the sad thing about this is our president has made pronouncements about policy changes to have a database where these people are known to the communities that they released back into. And it goes back to the slow pace of these policy implementations, Toli. And in the meantime, our children, women, all sorts of people are going to continue to get slain by animals like this one.
Let's move on to the front page of the Business Day. Rofhiwa, this is up your alley. Pivotal week for the Rand as budget looms. And I just want to read the subheadline below that. An analyst says markets are numbing to pledges by government officials that seem unachievable. We're going back to the same rhetoric that Business Unity South Africa, when they held, that all-important conference, that enough with the platitudes. I think you're probably going to tell me that that's what this article is also talking about.
That's what they're talking about. So I'm glad you mentioned the Rand already at a 4-month low because of the economic data that we've seen over the last 2-3 weeks, very dismal. And the coronavirus hasn't helped either. So now those market participants are going to be watching very closely. Don't tell us what's wrong with the country, as you've done over the last few years. Give us those solutions. So I've been preparing because I'll be covering the budget speech, and I read the budget speech from 2007. I probably shouldn't have, because it was a heartbreaker. That's when our economy was growing close to 5% annually. We were creating employment at 3% at the pace, at about 3%. And, you know, taxes was coming in. I think the tax revenue grew by about 14% in that 1 year. And that trend continued all the way to when the 9 last years started. So it's just the difference that we're seeing from 2007 all the way to now is just astonishing. And a part of me feels rather sorry for our minister, because the task is a tough one, especially because he has to be cutting spending by about 150 billion over the next 3 years. I don't know how that's going to happen at all.
And there's a warning just ahead of his budget speech, which is on Wednesday, by the way, by opposition parties. They're saying you have got to ignore warring factions inside the ANC. How does he do that? Does he actually even do that?
I think he showed us when he released his economic strategy that he posted on the Treasury website. You'll remember late last year that Tito Mboweni is not afraid to perhaps go in the opposite route. I think for him it's just getting the right support from the president, because he answers to the president. And I don't think that President Cyril Ramaphosa has the kind of guts that Minister Tito Mboweni has. And unless you've got that support from your boss, you can want to push for the radical action that's needed, those bold steps that are needed. But if you don't have the support from the top, nothing can change.
Nandi,
yeah,
close us off.
I've got good news. Just good news.
How excited she is.
I've got such... When was the last time I sat with you guys and said positive stuff about the state of cricket in the country? Well, the male Proteas have won. They won their T20 a match against Australia out in Port Elizabeth to level out the series. So they've got one. So they've got a 12-run win. I mean, just good news all around. And the women's Proteas out in Australia at the T20 World Cup, they won their first match against England, and it was only the 4th time in T20 international matches with England that they've won, and won convincingly, a 6-wicket run. So very impressive. They next are going to be playing Thailand on Friday, so hopefully it can just get better and better. Mignon du Preez, who has been playing for the Proteas for a very long time, she played in her 100th test match.
Yeah.
Test
Did
international.
you see my fingers?
Yes, we're just going to... Well, she actually came out and said that the intention is to win the T20 World Cup, which is great to hear. You know, we don't want people playing it safe. We want them to say that we want to come back with the trophy.
All right.
So good news there, at least.
At least we end on a good note, right?
Yeah.
On this chilly Monday.
Yes. As we send you off to Cape Town. Okay.
I just hope it's warmer. But anyway.
Thank you, ladies. All right. Still to come.